Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the third episode of Port Mythica. And in today's episode we will be finishing off the main ride area for our B&M dive coaster, which is actually going to be given a name in this episode, which should be on the thumbnail. And so yeah, you can see that it will be called Poseidon's Plunge. Now, I didn't do too much with the theming in this area, I just made it look vaguely mythological, and there's the main centerpiece that you will see later on in the video. But yeah, seeing as it, plunges into water, I decided it'd have to be Poseidon, and it plunges, because you down, plunge, down, plunge, but yeah, I decided to add some volume to this building, because I thought it would look very boring either way, so I decided to add a little bell tower, and I wasn't really sure on how I was going to make the bell, but yeah, I ended up going with, similarly to the dome on the front entrance, something similar to that, but more of a round one rather than just a dome. That sort of looked like a bell. It was very big, and it was a on-grid piece, so I couldn't actually make it smaller, so it was quite a big bell, but it worked. It just about fit in the tower, so yeah. The one thing that I think bugged me most about this game is the fact that there is no stamp tool for the queue path, so it's really difficult to get good cattle pens, and it took me a good while to actually manage to get some decent ones. You have to fiddle around with the edit tool and the different nodes, and it's really quite complicated, but I think I eventually managed to get something I liked. Yeah, you can just see me going through all of the steps of actually making the squared edges here. You have to basically round out the edges, which actually doesn't round them, it makes them more square, and then you just have to drag out the nodes so that they are roughly in a straight line. A lot of the times when the paths get close together, it's quite difficult for it to actually work, because they want to connect with each other when you don't want them to, which is quite annoying. But it's as good as we're going to get until they add something. Here you can see me. I'm adding the bell now. It's a very beautiful bell. Totally doesn't look like a massive ball floating, but is as good as I could get. There's probably something that I've missed that could have made it a lot better, but whatever. I then started adding some trims, because I thought it was a really plain, boring building, so I added some trims, and various other poles. And then I decided I'd make it look a bit more abandoned by adding some sort of shuttered, boarded up windows that were there in the past, or just random pieces of wood that had been used to seal up old holes in the building. And then I covered the sides of the queue path with this sort of roof trim, I think it was, or wall trim, I wasn't really sure, but yeah, I thought that sort of suited the area quite nicely. I then made the exit path for the ride, which would lead out into the main plaza. and once again I just covered up the sides of that path. And then I decided I'd mess around with the actual station, trying to make it look a bit more cluttered and like more of an abandoned little temple. So I added some statues, some old fallen cracked ruins of old buildings, and some torches to light it up a bit. And then I actually moved on to the ride area. I got a big statue that had been pre-made that I found on the Frontier Workshop, which was very useful. And then I added some rocks to help it stand out a bit, and just added some random more rock structures everywhere, because I thought it would be a bit boring if I just added loads of shrubs on the floor and trees. So I decided to add some bushes and big rocks with bushes climbing up them everywhere, just to add some contrast with the bright white pale colour of the rocks and the nice lush green of the plants. Sticking with the same plants again, just the cabbage bushes and whatever else there was, and the very tall cypress trees. I then created a custom scenery brush with some trees and some bushes, just so I could hide this back area of the park here, because I wasn't going to build anything further than I think the raised up area or a bit further out, but nothing really much past that I wasn't going to build. So yeah, I really love the scenery brush in this game. It's so helpful, because especially when you can make your own, you can just fill up a park with so much so quickly, and it just makes it feel more real, because you don't see just the map just disappear. It sort of blends all into one thing. It's obviously a lot more difficult to use in smaller areas, so you have to sort of custom place most of that, but other than that, it's probably one of the best tools I found that is in this game. I then decided that I would change the colour and the look of the trains, so I added some wings here. I basically added just some tridents here. I think I added some wings and some nice trims, and I think I ended up adding some lightning strike bolt things. And then I changed the colours so that they suited the colour scheme of the ride nicely, and then I started decorating the queue area, the queue line. There wasn't much here, just a few like statues, some trees, bushes and whatnot, pretty much the same as you see throughout the rest of the ride area. Once again, the scaling tool coming in very handy to shrink down some bushes and trees so they actually fitted in the gaps between the paths. Another thing I don't like about the queue paths is that they've got the little Planet Coaster symbols on them, which is quite annoying, and I hope they get rid of that at some point, because that is rather annoying. After that, I added some lighting all around the area, shining on the statues, and then I just checked that it lit up most of the area. I didn't want it to be too bright, but I wanted it to be so that as you're flying around you could see the statue, and it was quite a big thing from off-ride as well. Jesus Christ. I then messed around with adding lighting on the lift hill, and I just couldn't really get it to work. I think I left it as it is now, and it just sort of, I left it as that, and then I added some torches to the queue line, which is surprisingly bright, and they lit up the area nicely again, but also suiting the theme. And then I started the Plaza area. I wanted this to be more of like an organic kidney bean shape, and then I tried to smooth it, and the smoothing it did not work. It made it more jagged, which is weird. I then messed around with the texture of the path quite a bit, but I just decided to continue with the brick from the queue line. And then I tried to make a circle, because I don't know why, but they don't have a circle stamp in the game, which is really annoying, and then I just gave up. And then I made the sign using a lot of these random trim pieces. I then realised that if you group scale, they get very close together, which I found quite annoying, so I just ended up using the text sign and just syncing that in, because then it also offers a nicer font. I then added the two tridents as like a backing piece of scenery, just to bring it to life and make it a bit more extravagant, decorated up the area a bit more, and that is pretty much it for this episode, so I'll leave you to finish the time-lapse and watch some cinematics. Thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for 100 subscribers and the immense amount of support on the channel recently, and goodbye.